What if 99% of what you've been told about manifestation has been pointing your eyes outward, when the real secret has always been hidden inward? You've been told to visualize more, to repeat more affirmations, to chase signs in the sky and coincidences on the street. And yet, even after all of this, maybe you've felt that strange heaviness inside, the quiet frustration of giving your energy to technique after technique, only to find yourself in the same place, doubting if any of this is real for you. That's not failure. That's not because you are missing something. It's because most of what is taught is pointing you toward the reflection instead of the face, toward the mirror instead of the source. Think of it. You've poured fresh water into a glass still dirty with yesterday's stains. No matter how pure the water, it becomes clouded. This is what happens when you carry the same self-image, the same inner state, into a new practice. You can visualize wealth, but if in silence you still feel poor, the water takes the taste of the glass. You can repeat affirmations, but if your body is wired to wake each morning with anxiety, your nervous system memorizes lack more than your words memorize abundance. Neville Goddard called this the law of assumption. It is not the outer ritual that changes your life, but the invisible assumption you dare to accept about yourself. Joe Dispenza echoes it through the language of neuroscience. If every morning you wake with the same emotions, you step into the same past, no matter what thoughts you try to think. The future does not begin with thought alone. It begins with state. You already know this because you felt it. Haven't there been days when you did everything right? Meditated, journaled, spoke your affirmations, yet a subtle fear kept tugging beneath it all. That voice whispering, "What if it doesn't work? What if I'm still the same?" That voice is not the enemy. It is the doorway. It shows you the precise assumption still living inside you, shaping what you see as reality. And here is the truth. You don't need to fight that voice. You need only to choose what you accept as your silent truth, because what you accept in silence becomes fact in time. Maybe you feel as though you've read every book, tried every formula, and still wonder why others seem to manifest while you remain on the outside. Let me tell you something sacred. You are not late, you are not broken, and you are not excluded. What you are is standing at the threshold where real manifestation begins, not with chasing more signs, not with stacking more techniques, but with cleansing the vessel of self, the inner glass. Because until you shift the state you live from, every practice is just water in a dirty cup. But once the vessel is clear, even the smallest drop overflows into abundance. So let this introduction be more than words. Let it be the moment you stop believing you are waiting for something to come. Your peace does not live in the future. Your wealth is not delayed until tomorrow. Your freedom is not dependent on what others do. All of it is already present as soon as you dare to feel it as yours now. Feel that possibility stir inside your chest, like light settling gently on water. Breathe into it. Because this is where our journey begins, not in the 10,000 ways most people try to manifest and fail, but in the narrow door that few walk through, the shift of state, the quiet remembrance of who you truly are. Wrong, forcing the outside world to change. Have you noticed how often your first instinct is to wrestle with the world around you, as if pulling harder on the strings of circumstance will finally make them bend in your favor? You argue with bills, try to convince people, demand respect, beg for recognition, adjust the surface of life as if the roots will obey the trimming of the branches. And yet, after all that effort, the pattern returns. Because the truth is this: the world is not the cause. The world is the mirror. Every action born from desperation to rearrange the mirror only smudges the reflection more. Neville Goddard's voice cuts through the illusion with crystalline simplicity. Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Not change others, not force outcomes, but change the conception, the quiet identity from which all things flow. You can spend years trying to repair relationships by molding another's behavior. Yet until you assume yourself as one who is already loved, you remain in the posture of lack, no matter what words you speak. You can exhaust yourself chasing money, applying for opportunity after opportunity, but if within you are still assuming the one who struggles, every new job is only a new stage for the same old play. Think of it like standing before a mirror, wishing your reflection would smile. You lift the corners of the glass, you polish the frame, you even beg the reflection to change. But until you soften your own face, the reflection will not shift. Outer struggle is a hand pulling on the mirror, but the mirror only responds when the source itself transforms. This is the futility that has left you tired. And maybe that tiredness itself is grace, because only when you see the impossibility of changing life from the outside do you finally awaken to the only place where change is possible, within. So let's turn gently from the exhausting habit of manipulating what is seen. Withdraw for a moment from the outer battlefield. Place the power back where it has always been, inside your imagination. For here, the seed of every reflection is planted. It is not a matter of controlling the waves, but of becoming the wind. It is not a matter of forcing the mirror, but of recognizing the face that creates it. And in this recognition lies the liberation you've been waiting for. Right, living from the end, not toward it. There is a subtle difference between waiting for something and living as though it is already yours. And that difference is everything. Most people visualize their dreams the way a child looks through a store window, eyes pressed forward, heart longing, but still standing outside. They see their desires as someday, as when, as if. And without realizing it, they feed the vibration of waiting, the identity of the one who does not yet have. This is why so much effort leads to so little transformation. The inner posture remains incomplete, suspended in hope rather than rooted in being. Neville spoke of this with absolute clarity. You must think from the wish fulfilled, not of it. To imagine of something is to stand at a distance, painting pictures of what may come. To imagine from it is to stand inside the scene, breathing its air, wearing its clothes, feeling its reality as though nothing else exists. It is the difference between hoping to win the lottery and feeling the relief of debts already cleared, the lightness of a heart no longer weighed down by fear. It is the difference between daydreaming of love and moving through your day as one already chosen, already cherished, already complete. Imagine rehearsing marriage by waiting endlessly for the ring, instead of embodying the love of a partner now. The truth is, you don't prepare for fulfillment by postponing it. You live it inwardly before it ever appears outwardly. Life is not a rehearsal, it is a reflection, and the reflection always shows the face you wear in silence. Feel the power in this shift. You are not the one looking at a dream as though it is outside your reach. You are the one who has stepped into the room where it is already real. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You do not wonder when it will come. You wonder only how you ever doubted it was yours. This is living from the end. It is the quiet courage of declaring within yourself that you already are. And once you dare to feel this, the mirror cannot resist. It bends, it reshapes, it reflects. The world rearranges itself around your inner posture. Wrong. Manifesting with anxiety as the fuel. There is a tension many carry when they attempt to manifest, a subtle panic hidden beneath the affirmations and visualizations. The thought whispers, if I don't do this right, I will lose. If I don't repeat it enough, it won't come. And so the practice becomes a ritual of fear rather than an act of faith. Anxiety, though often disguised as effort, signals only one thing to the body: lack. It programs the nervous system to expect disappointment. It wires the brain to repeat the same circuits of scarcity, even as the lips speak words of abundance. The irony is that most people believe they are creating by working harder, visualizing longer, demanding more signs. Yet what they are truly feeding is the vibration of desperation. It is like planting seeds while standing over the soil in terror, worrying the ground will betray you. That worry is the very signal the universe receives. Instead of resting in the assumption of growth, the anxious heart rehearses loss again and again. Neville showed us that prayer is not begging. It is not a cry of fear sent into the night. It is the acceptance that the wish is already fulfilled. Anxiety cannot coexist with this acceptance. One is a vibration of waiting, the other a vibration of being. When you act out of panic, when you repeat your affirmations like a charm against disaster, you reinforce the very disaster you hope to avoid. You cannot mask fear with words. The body always tells the truth of what you actually assume. Consider the image of a hand gripping water. The tighter the grip, the less it holds. This is what happens when you try to manifest from fear. The harder you clutch, the more it slips away. True creation flows from open palms, from the quiet assurance that what belongs to you cannot be lost. Manifestation is not an act of control, it is an act of surrender to the state that already knows, already trusts, already is. And so, if you have been practicing from a place of anxiety, this is not condemnation, it is an invitation. It is the recognition that fear-driven rituals are counter-creation. What is asked of you is not more struggle, but less. Not more repetition, but deeper rest. For it is not your effort that convinces the universe, it is your state. Right? The power of revision. There is a hidden door in consciousness that most people never open because they believe the past is permanent. They replay old failures, old conversations, old moments of loss as if they were carved into stone. But Neville revealed something that the world rarely dares to imagine. The past itself is clay, and your imagination is the hand that reshapes it. What you remember is not fixed, it is fluid, and every time you recall an event, you bring it into the present, where it can be rewritten, reseen, reborn. How many nights have you laid awake, reliving the mistakes of the day, rehearsing words you wish you had spoken, regretting choices that seem irreversible? That loop is not harmless. Each replay is an assumption renewed, a vibration recharged. But here lies the miracle. If you can replay failure, you can replay triumph. If you can relive pain, you can relive fulfillment. Revision is the act of taking the script of the past and editing it until the ending becomes inevitable. Neville taught to use the moments before sleep as a sacred theater. As the body softens and the mind drifts, revisit the day not as it happened, but as it should have happened. See the argument dissolve into peace. Feel the opportunity embraced rather than missed. Experience the embrace you longed for as though it was given. When you do this, you are not lying to yourself. You are shifting the state from which tomorrow will unfold. The subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined. It only receives the vibration you feed it. Think of it like a film reel. The story is projected onto the screen of your life, but if you change the reel, the story must change with it. You are not condemned to watch the same film forever. You can splice a new ending, insert new scenes, and let the old dissolve. And when you persist in this new version, reality itself aligns with the revision. The past loses its grip, not because it is denied, but because it is redeemed. Revision is more than technique. It is liberation. It is the recognition that nothing is final until you decide it is. That your identity is not chained to memory, but shaped by imagination. You are not the victim of what has been. You are the author of what is. And when you dare to revise, you reclaim the pen, and the story of your life bends toward fulfillment. Wrong. Over-talking your desire. There is a temptation that arises when a new dream is born within you. The mind wants to announce it, to share it with anyone who will listen, to speak it into every conversation. It feels as if talking about it makes it more real. But often the opposite is true. Each time you explain your desire to others, you release a little of its energy into the air, scattering what was meant to root deeply inside of you. The more you talk, the more you dilute the silent intensity of assumption. Psychology confirms what Neville and the mystics have always known. When you verbalize a goal too early, the brain releases dopamine, the very chemical of achievement. You feel for a moment as though you've already accomplished something, yet no transformation has taken place. The fire burns out in words instead of action, in talk instead of state. And then comes the familiar cycle, a burst of excitement followed by disappointment when nothing changes. Neville's wisdom was clear. Creation happens in silence, not because silence is mystical, but because silence is where the assumption takes root. Talking is not creation, it is exposure. Words scatter what should be held in the womb of imagination. To live from your desire is not to parade it before the world, but to walk as though it were already true, with no need for confirmation. That quiet confidence is more magnetic than 1,000 explanations. Consider a seed in the soil. You do not dig it up each morning to prove to others it exists. You let it rest in darkness, unseen, where its power is multiplying. To overtalk your desire is to dig it up, over and over before it has a chance to sprout. You weaken its growth by seeking validation instead of nurturing certainty. The silence is not emptiness, it is gestation. So if you have found yourself exhausting your desire by speaking it too soon, recognize this not as failure, but as invitation. It is time to reclaim the sacredness of secrecy, to let your desire live in you until it becomes indistinguishable from who you are. When the state is embodied, The world will see it without you needing to explain. And when that day comes, it will feel less like an announcement and more like a remembering. Right. Feeling is the secret, not words. There is a reason why so many repeat affirmations until their voices grow tired, yet their lives remain unchanged. Words, when hollow, are only sound. They echo in the air, but never take root in the body. Neville spoke with unwavering clarity. It is not what you say, but what you feel that is prayer. Feeling is the lifeblood of creation. Without it, words are shells, empty, fragile, and powerless. The body itself reveals this truth. Neuroscience shows us that emotion is the signal the body takes as evidence of reality. You can declare wealth 1,000 times, but if fear still tightens your chest when you check your bank account, the vibration of scarcity is what your nervous system encodes. You can affirm love every morning, but if loneliness weighs heavy in your stomach, the body still rehearses absence. It is not the phrase that transforms, it is the vibration behind it. This is why Neville placed so much emphasis on feeling. One phrase, whispered with conviction, soaked in the warmth of fulfillment, carries more creative force than hours of mechanical repetition. Imagine holding the words, "I am free," not as a chant, but as a truth that softens your shoulders, lifts your breath, and fills your chest with lightness. The feeling itself is the creation. The universe does not respond to syllables, it responds to states. Consider how children play. When a child says, "I am a queen" or "I am a superhero," they are not simply speaking words. They are inhabiting the state. Their posture changes, their tone shifts, their body believes. That is why their imagination feels so real, because it is carried by emotion. This is the essence of true manifestation. To feel is to embody, and to embody is to create. So when you return to your words, let them be few, but let them be alive. Do not count the number of times you speak them, count the depth of the state they awaken. One living word is greater than 1,000 lifeless ones, and when the feeling takes root, no repetition is needed. The state itself will echo into your world until the reflection cannot help but appear. Wrong, waiting for signs before believing. There is a subtle trap many fall into, one that feels practical but quietly undermines the entire process of creation. It is the thought, "I will believe it when I see it." This posture makes outer proof the condition for inner faith. It ties your state to the appearance of circumstances, as though reality were the master and you the servant. But Neville revealed the opposite. Believing is the cause, not the result. To wait for a sign before assuming your desire is already fulfilled is to place the cart before the horse, guaranteeing an endless loop of waiting. Think of the farmer who plants seeds. He does not dig up the soil each morning to check for sprouts before he believes in growth. His faith is shown in the act of planting, in the care he gives without demand for proof. He knows the unseen process is already underway. But many approach manifestation like impatient farmers, demanding daily signs from the soil, restless without visible confirmation. That restlessness itself is the vibration of doubt, and doubt only multiplies itself. When you wait for the universe to prove itself before you trust your inner vision, you are announcing to life that you do not believe your imagination has power. You are saying, "I cannot accept it is mine until something outside tells me so." This is mistrust disguised as caution, and it keeps your desire at a distance. The law does not bend to hesitation. It reflects the state you hold. If you hold waiting, you receive more waiting. If you hold certainty, certainty shapes the reflection. Neville's teachings invite a radical shift, to believe first without condition, to let the unseen be enough, because it is the unseen that carries the seed of the seen. Faith is not blind. It is creative sight. It is the ability to see what no one else yet sees, and to walk as though it were already here. Signs are not prerequisites, they are consequences. They follow assumption the way shadows follow the body. So release the grip of needing proof before you rest in belief. The moment you dare to accept your desire as already fulfilled, you are no longer waiting for the world to give you permission. You are giving the world its instruction. And when this shift happens, signs will appear not as the cause of your faith, but as the echo of it. Right? The morning and evening state shift. There are two moments in every day when the veil between conscious effort and subconscious creation is at its thinnest. Just as you awaken and just before you surrender to sleep. Most rush through these moments without awareness, stumbling out of bed already wrapped in yesterday's worries, or collapsing at night under the weight of exhaustion. But Neville revealed these gateways as sacred thresholds, the most fertile ground for planting the seeds of assumption. They are the edges where imagination slips most easily into the subconscious, where thought and feeling crystallize into identity. Consider the morning. Too often it begins in haste, the phone in your hand, the mind racing with tasks, the body already rehearsing the old state of anxiety. Without realizing it, you step into the same identity as yesterday, and the day unfolds accordingly. But if, in those first quiet moments, you dare to step into the state of the wish fulfilled, you tilt the balance of the entire day. A few breaths, a simple image, a felt sense of already being the one you desire to be. This is enough to set the subconscious compass. The morning is not just the start of the day, it is the start of the vibration you carry through it. And at night, when the body softens and the conscious mind loosens its grip, the subconscious becomes most receptive. This is why Neville called the state akin to sleep, or SATS, a key to manifestation. In those moments before you drift away, your imagination writes directly onto the fabric of the self. If you replay the day in fear, you program tomorrow with lack. But if you fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the subconscious embraces it as fact, and life reorganizes itself to match. Sleep becomes not escape, but creation. Think of these two moments as doorways. The morning opens you into the world. The evening closes you into the depths of self. Both are opportunities to plant seeds in the soil of imagination. And like any garden, what you plant in silence will grow in time, visible for all to see. The question is not whether you are planting, but what seeds you are choosing to place. So let your mornings and evenings become sacred rituals, not of effort, but of remembrance. Remembrance that you already are the one you desire to be. Remembrance that the subconscious is always listening, and in these moments it listens most deeply. When you honor these thresholds, you stop repeating the old cycle and begin to author a new one, day by day, night by night. Wrong. Mixing 10 different methods without depth. In the hunger for transformation, it is easy to scatter your energy across countless practices, scripting today, crystals tomorrow, vision boards next week, endless techniques gathered like souvenirs. The mind believes that the more methods it collects, the closer it will come to manifestation. But the soul knows otherwise. Every time you abandon one practice for another, you send a silent message of doubt. This is not enough. I am not enough. And that doubt becomes the true state you embody, no matter how many tools you hold. Neville spoke with piercing simplicity. One assumption, persisted in, is enough. You do not need 10 doors when one will carry you through, if only you remain faithful. When you scatter yourself across multiple techniques, you dilute the very power you seek to amplify. It is like trying to tune into 10 radio stations at once. You hear only static, never the clarity of a single song. This restlessness often comes from impatience, the subtle belief that if one method does not deliver instant results, it must be abandoned for another. But this impatience itself is the state of lack. It is the vibration of not yet, and it perpetuates itself endlessly. True creation asks for depth, not breadth. It asks for persistence, not novelty. One seed, planted and nourished, will grow into a tree. 100 scattered seeds, abandoned before they take root, yield nothing but empty soil. Consider the river. It carves valleys not by moving in 10 directions, but by flowing steadily in one. The depth of its persistence shapes landscapes. This is the nature of assumption when it is held faithfully. It does not matter whether your chosen practice is visualization, affirmation, or revision. What matters is the depth of embodiment, the unwavering commitment to remain in that state until the world mirrors it back. So if you have felt overwhelmed by a library of methods, release the need to do more. Simplicity is not weakness, it is power. Depth is not limitation, it is liberation. Your task is not to gather more tools, but to inhabit the one that resonates with you so completely that it becomes your second nature. For in that faithfulness, creation unfolds. Right. Self-identity first, desires second. There is a fundamental misunderstanding that keeps so many circling the same desires year after year. They chase the thing itself, money, love, recognition, freedom, without ever addressing the identity from which they are chasing. And when you chase from the posture of the one who does not have, your very pursuit affirms lack. You can run endlessly, but the finish line only moves further away because you are running with the wrong self. Neville declared it plainly. You must dare to assume you are already what you want to be. This is not metaphor. It is the essence of creation. Desire is never separate from identity. Money is not attracted to the poor self who longs for it. It flows naturally to the wealthy self who assumes prosperity. Love does not come to the lonely one who begs for it. It radiates to the one who lives already cherished, already whole. Reality only mirrors what you embody, never what you pursue. Think of the tree. It does not strain to get fruit. It does not pray for the day apples will arrive. It assumes its identity as an apple tree, and in that assumption, fruit appears as an inevitable expression of what it is. The fruit is not the cause of the identity. The identity is the cause of the fruit. This is the same with you. When you embody the identity of your fulfilled self, the desires you once chased become natural extensions of who you are. This is why so many struggle. They try to add desires onto an unchanged identity, layering hope on top of an old self-image. But manifestation is not about decorating the old self, it is about stepping into the new one. The shift is subtle yet absolute. Instead of asking, "When will I receive this?" the question becomes, "Who am I now that I already have it?" That single shift transforms vibration from longing into being, and here lies the true secret. The desire itself is not the goal. The desire is the invitation to awaken the self who already lives in that reality. To chase the desire is to miss the point. To embody the identity is to receive the desire without struggle. When you dare to assume the state of your ideal self, life has no choice but to echo it. Conclusion: the narrow door to true manifestation. As we arrive at the end of this journey, take a moment to let everything settle, not as ideas you've gathered, but as seeds planted in the quiet soil of your being. We began with the recognition that 99% of people approach manifestation in ways that leave them chasing, waiting, and exhausting themselves. They grasp at mirrors instead of turning to the face. They water the soil with anxiety instead of trust. They talk endlessly of desires without ever becoming the one who already lives them. And yet, through every illusion, a deeper truth has been shining. The law is simple, but it is narrow. It does not bend to scattered effort or restless searching. It responds only to the state you dare to assume. Neville called this the narrow door. He explained that few enter not because it is hidden, but because it demands a kind of discipline the world resists. It is the discipline of living from the end again and again until it becomes natural. It is the refusal to be swayed by appearances, the courage to feel what is unseen as though it were already fact. This narrowness is not a limitation, it is precision, and precision is what gives creation its power. Joe Dispenza echoes this from the language of neuroscience. You cannot create a new future while embodying the emotions of the old self. If each morning you rehearse fear, worry, and lack, you are rehearsing the past no matter what new thoughts you try to think. But the instant you embody gratitude, freedom, or abundance, even before you see them, you step into a new self, and that new self commands a new reality. This is not philosophy, it is law. Most people spend their lives trying to push the river, struggling, splashing, grasping at the banks, believing force will carry them further. But the truth is gentler and far more profound. Manifestation is not about pushing the river, it is about becoming the river. When you become it, flow is inevitable. There is no fear of direction, no doubt about arrival. You are carried not because you fight, but because it is your nature to move toward fulfillment. So let this be the reflection you carry with you. What if the only thing separating you from your desire is the assumption that it is not yet yours? What if the narrow door is not somewhere far away, but right here, in the choice to accept your ideal self as your truth in this moment? You do not need more proof, more effort, or more time. You need only to remember, for what you dare to assume in silence will, without fail, become fact in time.